Hi, guys. Welcome back. I'm Nick. This is Cassiotti News, bringing you three sides to three topics today. If you haven't seen the first topic, it is linked right above there. We have a Republican, a Democrat, and a Libertarian today, and let's hear from them. So, our second topic, Jacob, the mainstream media plays an important role when they frame a conversation or cover a story. What are we going to expect of their coverage of Joe Biden and his administration?
Well, here's the thing with mainstream media. It's kind of always, I've noticed, when you turn on the mainstream, whether it's MSNBC, CNN, or Fox News, they're always fighting at each other. It's kind of juvenile and amusing for a certain amount of time until you start to realize that this people are listening to this garbage. I'm old enough to remember when you turn on your TV and oh my God, you're younger. You don't even want to watch the news. It was so incredibly boring. They were just very objective and they just wanted you to get the information out there and make your own decisions. But this is honest to God truth about, just from my observation, then they became cable, and cable had news networks all of a sudden. And then they had to entertain people to make money. And it became this whole, let's just keep building this thing. Well, they realized they got more ratings, the more inflammatory, the more divisive they became. Well, now we're seeing the consequences. I far more fear the misinformation or the stilting of mainstream media than I do, let's say, Donald Trump or Biden, because I don't fear those guys. I fear the people that listen to them. But where they're getting their leverage from is the media. So they're actually the kind of the enemy in my assessment. I'm grateful for this ability to go online and hear other points of view, just like we're doing here. Um, and it's like, over their dead body, would they ever put somebody like me on, except for Kennedy? So, yeah, I think they are one of the main problems, or at least their monopoly. They can say whatever they want, but it's entertainment. And by the way, there's a Supreme Court rule that says they are entertainment. They're not actually news.
Rocco, we've seen potentially 4 years of the president shouting at the mainstream media, calling them fake news. Is that different from what we're going to see under Joe Biden?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be very different from what we're going to see under Joe Biden. Under Donald Trump, you saw 4 years of Trump shouting at them that they're fake news, and you saw 4 years of the mainstream media shouting at Trump that he's every name in the book. And, people in conservative circles have generally accepted the notion that mainstream media is typically left leaning. And I think that even average non political people are starting to see that this is the case today. And I think that dynamic is going to escalate under Joe Biden, not only because of how wedded they feel to his presidency due to how hard they pushed for him to become president, but also because that's the only way to maintain their ratings, is to attempt to maintain the sort of Trump boogeyman. And in the absence of Donald Trump himself being active, I'm expecting them to try to paint whatever Republicans galvanizing the base as being a dangerous extremist in order to try to keep people tuning in. And I think the ratings are about to take a big hit. So I think that whatever next police incident happens will be over the top sensationalized like never before. And I think that they're going to take some of their focus off of the presidency to the extent that they did with Trump. They were very focused on Trump every single day, no matter what network it was. I think now that their focus is going to be more on the more interesting characters in politics outside of Trump, whether that be the far left, whether that be the more Trumpian elements within the Republican Party. And that's because those are the feuds that guarantee ratings. The audiences of a lot of these channels are motivated by their hatred or their fear of the other side and the movements on the other side. So I predict that, that's what will be covered. The administration will get fairly deferential treatment, and we'll end up in an area which is sort of what Rush Limbaugh called the Limbaugh theorem, which was during the Obama administration. Rush Limbaugh said that Obama was constantly trying to appear as not governing in order to sidestep personal responsibility for controversies. And I think you'll see the media play that up to an even greater extent with Joe Biden and paint him as a victim of things that are happening even as he's the president during those things.
So the antithesis to that, Sydney, would be fake news. Are we going to see a resurgence of truthful news? Is that what we're going to expect under Joe Biden? Tell me what that picture is going to look like being painted in front of us.
Well, what I expect from the Biden administration in regards to the mainstream media and the way that they choose to, shape him is, I mean, what we've seen so far is, primarily a positive view of, the incoming administration. And I do believe that there's a difference in the way that we address the mainstream media as far as the opinion segments being pushed and the fact reporting, because I've done my research on different mainstream media sources, and I found that some of the most popular ones have, like, for example, CNN, very factual, actual news reporting segments, but then their opinion segments are left leaning. And, MSNBC, you see something a little bit of the same, but with a little bit less left leaning. Fox News, obviously right leaning. But I think that that's an important distinction to make in these news sources, is the opinion segments being pushed versus the actual factual reporting. But from the Biden administration, I expect an administration open to criticism and committed to preserving the voice of the press. Donald Trump constantly, shouting at the press, fake news, whenever they say anything, even if it's proven factual, isn't productive for anyone. And I think it's time that, the White House press briefings aren't as chaotic as they've been for the past 4 years. I think it's going to be nice to see some boring White House press briefings for once, instead of just an attack on the media without much basis to do so.
Okay, Jacob, how would you respond to Sydney and Rocco's points from a libertarian? I mean, we're looking at right and left. We're looking at your host and potentially a lot of your audience being non-party affiliated. We're looking at the media, as she brought up the points. Fox News has opinion pieces that are very far right-leaning. CNN, in their opinion pieces, I mean, we'll take their hosts. I mean, we can call them out. Don Lemon, is very far left-leaning, and he lets you know that as the host of the program. Tucker Carlson, very far right-leaning as the host of that particular program. So how can people sit down and watch those programs and get an unbiased fact out of either of those gentlemen?
You simply can't. Because language is important, right? In language, when you already have a direction, a true north, you're going to speak to those points no matter what. Even if you're trying to be fair, even if this, that, or the other thing, everything's been so politicized, and I can't help but just be disgusted by it all. I just want news. I want to know what's going on in my communities.
To that point, I mean, the media is going to be the echo chamber of whichever party that you're going to be a part of.
That's right.
I look at potentially a future where if you take the Senate right now, they're split 50-50 Republicans and Democrats right now, this very second. If the Libertarians get one seat and if the Green Party get one seat, that changes literally everything in that conversation. It literally changes everything by just changing one seat to two different parties that aren't in power. How would the media take to that? I mean, I don't want to get into speculation or anything like that. I want to get into that duality, that 50-50 split of those two parties right now in Congress. Again, majority ruled by the Democrat Party. Are we expecting the media, the mainstream media, to treat this the exact same way under President Biden as we saw under President Trump?
No. Absolutely not. We can already see it. Here's the thing. It's like, the inconsistencies of, and no offense to either one of you guys that's on the show, the inconsistencies are blaring when it comes to both sides. Everybody, feels like they have to fit into one side or the other. You know how many times I've heard, I'd vote Libertarian if I thought there was a chance you guys would win. And if everybody voted Libertarian that said that to me, we would have won a long, long time ago. But it's this ongoing thing of, well, you don't get in the door because we only have two conversations in this country. In that, the left and the right don't seem to realize, well, at least generally, I hate labeling people, it's gross, but generally speaking, don't understand that that's just detrimental to them too. And you can see this in other countries that have a broader political spectrum than ours. If we had a broader political spectrum or a broader, base where people weren't feeling like they had to vote one way or another, then you would have a lot more peace in this country. And that's for sure.
So Rocco, Sydney brought up some really fantastic points. Are we going to see, to that point, if we saw an excess amount of fake news, are we going to see unifying true news out of the Biden administration? I mean, what is your counterpoint to her?
Well, I guess my counterpoint would sort of be focused in on the notion that there's a difference between the opinion segments and the news segments, and that while the opinion segments tend to be sensationalized, the news segments tend to do a better job. And, just off the top of my head, in terms of stories that CNN put out that were blatant fake news, you had the fake news saying that Donald Trump Jr. leaked emails to WikiLeaks about Hillary Clinton's emails being leaked out. You had the fake news about the Russian T-tape that was put out by BuzzFeed, reported by CNN. You had conspiracy theories put out about Trump instructing people to lie to the Mueller investigators. You had, the whole Nick Sandmann story, where a kid who just wore a MAGA hat and got confronted by some left-wing political activists was made out to be some horrible racist by news organizations like CNN and the New York Times. You had Brett Kavanaugh, who was accused of being a rapist on the basis of an accusation where the woman couldn't even remember what house she was in, what street she was on, how she got there, basic details of these things. And, finally, CNN, the news segment, not the opinion segment, doxed a man, or threatened to dox a man, I should say, who made a meme which had Donald Trump clotheslining a logo of CNN imposed over Vince McMahon's face. This was at WrestleMania. And they said that they found the man and that he apologized for it, but they reserve the right to release his name if he does any nonsense in the future. So CNN, even their news segments, and all of these, MSNBC, the New York Times, they have truly earned the moniker enemy of the American people. And the reason Trump called them that is because they so often show us that they are willing to destroy people personally for the simple crime of disagreeing.
Sydney, I'll give you the last minute to respond to these gentlemen.
Well, I would say, as my first statement, in regards to the Brett Kavanaugh trials, I think that criticism of him was completely valid. And I think that, devaluing, a woman accusing someone of sexual assault is kind of a bit of a low blow. But I would extend the question of, what are your preferred news sources then? Because I think that it's incredibly important that, every American is responsible for, consuming a variety of news sources instead of one. I would not sit here and say that CNN is my primary news source, because it absolutely is not. And I don't hold it to the standard of being my primary news source. I trust sources more like the Associated Press, sources that are proven to be, neutral. And I would just extend that question.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate our guests for coming on today. We appreciate the topic. Let us know in the comments below what you think of this particular topic. Share us on social media. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.